Greetings and salutations, guys. I was sitting here on, I've got a week off from work, so I'm sitting here writing some music, having a nice glass of red wine in the middle of the day because, you know, alcoholic with mental health problems, as you do. And I thought I'd just show you how I go about recording guitars, because as you probably have noticed, I quad track my guitars, and when you do that, you do have to play fairly tight. I'm going to mix this video with also a building tones sort of rundown. I don't often build tones anymore, like guitar tones and that, because I have all my favorite presets and stuff that I made a fair while ago, just saved as presets, so I just use them all the time. But what I'll do is I'll record this riff, then I'll delete the guitar amp sims, and then build some tones from scratch, so you can see how I would go about building tones and getting the sound that you hear when I play a song. So as you can see on the screen, I have an instance of Reaper up. This was a song I was working on yesterday, so I wrote this song pretty much yesterday in a few hours. It's a little rough, but I was just trying to get ideas down for, you know, another video or something. So the riff for the song would be, it was so that was pretty much the riff for the song. The tempo is 162. I usually have a clicker going. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, depending on the feel of the song. So when quad tracking, you've got to play fairly tight, just to make sure that you know, everything lines up. But usually when you're playing, you tend to play exactly like yourself anyway, so it's pretty much just gonna all match up. So basically I'll just give myself like an 8 count or something, you know, into the bar, and pretty much just goes like this. And you screw up, and then you stop and you start again. And again. So basically, you know, when you hear me finishing a song and you know, you think, oh man, that sounds really good, the amount of times sometimes I screw up trying to play is unbelievable, which I'm sure you have all dealt with yourselves. So we'll just keep going. And screwed it up again. I'll get it eventually. That's one time. Now I just have to do that another 4 times, 3 times, 3 times. All right. carried away. I don't think it has to be perfect when you do it either. It's you know, you want it to sound a little lively, a little rough, I feel. Gives it a bit of character, makes it more just you know, makes it more your playing. So once we've got the 4 tracks, you can hear So that's pretty much how you quad track guitars. Nice and simple, keep it tight, keep it clean. Okay, I'm just going to put my guitar down. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to delete all the guitar amp plugins, and then I'll build some stuff from scratch, because I've had a few of you guys ask, how do I build tones? Like I said before, I don't really build tones much anymore because I have presets that I use pretty much on every song now, and every amp plugin that I own, which is quite a few now, I actually have presets that I've made over the time. I very rarely tweak stuff these days. It's more about writing and having fun with it. But quickly go through how I would create tones. So you can see on my screen here that I have an EQ on the guitars, and so I usually use the Soldano, and then I'll delete that, and the Trucci. They're the 2 main ones that I use. Often I'll use Gojira as well, because I really like that. It's got some really nice, like, high end. But as you can see, I've just deleted everything on the guitars. So now the guitars by themselves will sound alright. So how I would literally go about building guitar tones is, obviously, first choose the plugin that you want. I'll go with the Soldano because that's my favorite plugin, so we'll go with that. Actually, what I'll do instead is I'll go with Amped Roots. Okay, I'm gonna go with Amped Roots because everyone can download this amp for free. This is a completely free amp. It's great, probably the best sounding free amp you can get. So you guys can grab this as well. This is really easy to get, completely free. As you can see, everything's at noon. I'll mono this one guitar so that you can hear exactly what's going on that guitar. Just let me turn the metronome off. As you can hear, it's quite high gain, quite fizzy, which I really don't like. Too high gain, especially when I'm recording, especially when I'm quad tracking. You don't want too much gain because it'll just turn into a wall of fizz, and that's not what you want. So what I'm going to do is straight away drop the gain straight away. Now I'm going to drop the lows probably about, probably 11 o'clock. And then the mids just down a bit. You don't want to scoop the mids too much because you're going to lose your whole guitar tone straight away. It's just going to disappear in all the low end of the song. So highs up a bit, probably to about 3 o'clock. Okay, I like the highs up a little bit. At this point, I'm not even listening to the tone. This is just what I've got in my head, how I know to set things in my head, just from so many years of doing it. Okay, so presence up a fair bit. On the pedal board, I'm going to put a compressor on, but I'm going to drop it back. I only want a slight bit of compression just to balance out those chugs and everything, so it doesn't, you haven't got too much peaks. Always put a drive pedal on. This is just my personal taste. I always put a drive on and use the typical standard thing that everyone does: drive all the way down, level all the way up, and tone at about probably 2 o'clock. Okay, that is how I like it. I always put a noise gate on because some of my guitars are quite loud. So that usually I adjust to sound, depending on which guitar I use. I showed some guitars in another video where I've got Duncan distortions that have really high gain pickups and they make a lot of noise. So sometimes I've got to bring that noise gate up a lot more. I also find the noise gate cuts down the gain just that little bit extra and just, cleans up the guitars a little bit. I know that's an argument most people will have with me, but that's what I find. Cab section. Now, I know in this plugin I like the Mega Oversized and I like the Freeman, okay, but I don't like Dynamic 57. I find them too harsh, so I usually use Dynamic 421 on most of my amp plugins and a Dynamic Ribbon 121. Sorry. Now this is where I'll have a quick listen to what I've done. As you can hear, quite thin. I always do thin guitars when I'm recording. People like to, think that if they put in these fat, huge guitars, it's going to fatten up their sound and make their guitar massive. But is all you do, in my opinion. Just remember, guys, this is all my opinion. I'm no professional. I'm a bedroom guy like you guys. This is no professional opinion. This is just what I've found has worked for me. So thinner guitars, I find, allow all the low end of the instruments that are meant to be low end, like the bass and the kick drum and anything else low you put in there, like some synths or something that have some bottom end in them. It allows that to come through, make the bottom end beefy where it's supposed to be. The guitars shouldn't be hugely over the top beefy. Depending on the guitar plugin you're using, you can bring the lows up sometimes and that, but especially because I'm quad tracking, you're going to have 4 instances of guitars still bringing all that drive, bringing all that low end, bringing all that noise into it. So as you can hear, it's a very low end, a very thin sounding guitar. But I will fatten that up by simply, because I already like that tone, I think that's great. I might bring the highs down a little bit. See, if I drop out the mids, it's just going to become muddy slosh. And then you start to get that low end just boominess, which you don't want. So you don't want to drop out the mids too much. And you don't want hissy highs. So if you drop those highs out, then it just loses all clarity. Presence is the same. See, obviously that's way too high. So I like to always have the presence on most amps around 2 o'clock. I mean, you will adjust depending on the amp a little bit, but not too much, I think. And again, like I said, I've got that gain right down. If I put the gain right up, so you're losing the clarity of those punches. Like you want that, like the chugs to be real, not sort of, I know I'm making weird noises now, but you want that clarity of the chug. So I bring it right down. Especially because you're going to have 4 guitars chugging at the same time. They're still going to come through as powerful with the 4 guitars going, even if you have 2, 1 per side. You know, you got to remember that it's not just the chugs by themselves. Like, people seem to think that it's the chugs that give it that power and that, but it's not. It's the chugs with the kick drum, with the bass guitar, with everything at once is really going to pump it. But if you overdo everything at once, it just turns into a muddy mess and you lose that nice solid chug. So the other way I like to thicken it up is move the mics around a bit. You know, if you're not using IRs, most of the time I rarely use IRs. Rarely. I use the built-in cabs. Most of the cabs these days that come with it, like, you can tweak it to get your own sound, you know. So I like to have a balance in the mix, and then usually I'll just play the song, play that section over and over. Like, let's put that section on repeat, and then I'll adjust, just, you know, move the mics around till my ear feels comfortable with it. So, and already, I'm really happy with that tone. I think that's a great sounding tone. I don't think I even have to do anything else with that. So what I usually do is just drag an instance of that same amp over to one of the other guitars. Usually I have, you can see here on my screen, I have 4 separate guitars. I have them at the same volume. I'll drag one left, one right. So if I pan that now, I have 2 guitars going. So there you go, that's straight up a pretty solid tone. You bring the bass into that. Now, often what I'll do is mix 2 separate amps, like 2 completely different amps. So let's see what else I got. We'll try and go something free again. What can we get for free? All right, STL Tones Ignite. Okay, this is a completely free amp. Again, you can download this, costs you nothing. Waiting for my computer to load. I'm recording at the same time as loading stuff up, so completely free amp. All right, I'm going to set everything to 0. Solo it out. Get rid of the bass. So there you go, completely free amp, another one. These can download, cost you nothing. All right, so let's drop the gain again, like we do, like I told you. Bass down a bit, lows down a bit, mids down a touch, treble up, and presence up. Okay, I'll drop that depth there down. So again, you got to play with it because this is a completely different amp, so we're probably going to need a little bit more drive on that one, so turn the gain up a bit. Alright, let's see what we've got here on the speaker cabs. So I don't remember which amp I really liked on this one. I think it was this one. Usually on the second guitar, I like to have something that's a little harsher, a little bit more gritty, gives it a little bit more bite in the guitar tone. You notice the other guitar tone was a little fizzy, a little bit more drive in the amp. This is a lot drier, so we'll do that. I think I've already got a drive on it, which is good. I think I like this one better. Again, you can hear how thin that guitar tone is. You can always bring the depth up a little bit just to give it a bit more bottom end. So with the other guitar on the side, so this is another thing I do is balance the guitars, see how they sound together. Keep the other one on the left, but bring this one up. So then now what did I do? Wrong thing. Okay, so then we get that, drag it straight over to the other one. So two of those together will sound like this. To keep them two guitars balanced, grab them two, not that one. We don't want to grab that one. Grab these two and bring them down. Now, if you could see on my mixer here, if I put all four guitars on, I want to get these two balanced so all guitars are the same volume. As you can hear from the guitars, there's not much drive in it, and there's not much bass low end in it or anything, but you can hear it, the clarity in it, and that's the whole point of the guitars, is you want to hear that clarity. You don't want to hear too much fizz, too much mids, you know, scooped out, too much low end. You start getting that big like woo 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 sound, which you really don't want. It's all about keeping the guitars as clear as possible so people can hear exactly what you're doing. That's what you want. So now if I bring the bass in, it's going to really bring in the low end of that whole section. And you notice because the guitars are thinner and sitting in their own space, they're not taking away from everything that the bass is. You can hear the notes in the bass. It's not just a filler of low end. It's more of a, you know, you can hear the highs of in the bass and everything too, because bass isn't all about low end, just complete low end. So as you can hear, guys, having too much drive and too much noise in your songs is not always a good thing. You want to keep that gain low. It might not sound punchy when you're playing it. You know, when you pick up the guitar and you're playing it, that's why I said in my last video, I don't use the same tones to play with as I do for recording. Because these tones don't sound great by themselves. You pick up a guitar and that tone probably sounds horrible. Like you go to punch, like, you know, really chug it out and there's no drive. It doesn't really, you know, grit in. But when you've got 4 guitars and the bass and the drums all hitting together, it adds something that just, you know, all comes together perfectly. And that's why you get that nice, really... You get that nice punchiness with it. Like even down here when I'm doing faster stuff, this is the other thing. If you want to do something fast and you have too much drive, it just loses all clarity and just turns into a big mess. So you want to keep that drive right down and the guitar's a little thinner so everything cuts through. And when you're picking really fast, each hit of the pick is like, has clarity. You know, not just turns, because if you have it too much drive, as you pick, the distortion goes into the next pick. And then when you're picking fast, there's no clarity. So you want it to pick, but attack and stop quickly. You know? Anyway, so I don't know if this has helped anybody. I just wanted to show the way I do things because I've had a few questions about my guitar tone and how I go about recording, how I lay tracks, how I get my tone to sound the way it does. And I can't reiterate it more that keeping your tone low gain and clean is the most important thing, because you're just going to lose too much clarity in the mix if you go really high gain. So I hope this helped you. I'm going to sit and finish my wine now. So have a good day, guys, and enjoy indeed. Thanks, guys.